Good morning, good afternoon, or maybe good evening for international viewers of my channel from around the globe. This is for the advanced level speakers and learners of English. So, the kind of discussion that we are going to have now is to mitigate the challenges that people suffer from and go through when they are learning or when they're starting their journey of language learning. Let's start with having a plan. And this is something that a lot of people, a lot of a lot of specialists, a lot of researchers highly recommend. If you do not have a plan and you do not have an objective of what you want to achieve, it's really hard to beat around the bush and then expect a productive result ultimately. Now, the kind of plan that I'm talking about is very simple. It can be 10 minutes, just like what we are going to address today, which is, can you learn English 10 minutes a day? And that is achievable, possible, if it is sustainable. So let me get started by introducing to you how you can achieve language learning in 10 minutes with this sample of a daily plan. First, for 1 to 3 minutes, you can learn 3 to 5 new words with flashcards. Then, 4 to minute 6, practice pronunciation and mimic sentences from a short audio. And then 7 to 8, read a short paragraph and highlight key phrases. And then minute 9 to minute 10, maybe you can write short sentences using new vocabulary or grammar points. Now, articulation of sounds in the second language is very important. Again, this is for the advanced level learners and it can serve as a good listening practice for them. But at the same time, I want you to understand that the kind of things that we are throwing on the table right now are geared toward people who are lazy or they just want to kickstart and jumpstart and hit the ground running with language learning. No matter what their level is, if their level is a little bit rusty, or if they're just struggling to get started, or if they don't know what to start with. Because ultimately speaking, people have to have guidance. They need guidance and they need kind of advice from people who have been in the field for a long time. So the kind of recommendations that we are building here are built constructively on the academic research and second language acquisition, or what we call SLA. These are not innovative approaches to language learning because ultimately what we are dealing with is a human being who wants to learn a second language. And some of people are proactive in their approach, so they can just start depending on themselves and acquire the language and learn the language over the course of time, or they just don't know because they don't have the instructional platform or design to benchmark their progress on. Most of the tips that you find on YouTube are really helpful. They can be an eye-opening for you to understand how people approach second language learning, whether they're Arabs, they're in Middle East, or they're learning other languages. You can even learn from native speakers of English learning Arabic and see what the challenges are. But most of the time, you have to ensure that your learning is collaborative. It's a teamwork. You cannot achieve language learning by just learning and memorizing words using flashcards. Language should be activated by verbally trying to regurgitate what you have learned and to speak up, introduce yourself, say something simple to people, especially those in your team and in your acquaintance. This will empower you and will make your language learning so transformative. Language learning can be an exceptional mission, but it will leave a very profound and authentic experience to yourself. If you optimize the kind of learning for the context of your work, because a lot of people actually struggle with the fact that they are regular government employees or they have just graduated and didn't get the chance to see the real language learning in their journey, in their work, because of the commitments and the social life and For women, if they are most of the time staying at home, they do not have contact with the world outside. It's really hard actually to actualize the kind of learning of language that they have garnered over the span of time they spend learning that language. Now, to start with the daily practice, maybe spending 3 to 5 minutes memorizing words, try to say them correctly. That is going to give you the small bricks that will ultimately build this kind of house or build this kind of building of capacity or faculty of language learning that you have. Because ultimately, language can be divided into small components, which are words, and words are, formed by sounds. So if you master sounds, there are 44 sounds that I've mentioned in my channel, you'll be able to grasp the basic components of language, which are words. They are controllable to some extent because there are limited set of words that each person can speak in his lifespan. Now that is expandable considering the fact some people pursue academic career. So if we rewind back to square number one, we can see that the kind of circulated words that people reciprocate with each other and they talk using specific set of expressions, idioms, metaphor, words, or adjectives, you can come across a lot of similarities and identical set of patterns that you will learn from. Practicing speaking is very valuable source of understanding the pragmatic side of language and how you can express yourself, how you approach people. And I remember this quote that if you know how to ask questions, you do not have to say anything or you don't have to speak. Because if you ask questions, you will elicit answers from people from different sets of environments. And that kind of, conversation will get you into the mood, atmosphere of engaging in negotiations and conversations of different kinds. So the versatility of the topics come from you learning how to ask questions. And this is, again, something that I have constructively worked on to provide specific tailored lessons on how to make questions in English from the beginner's level, from the starter's level. And once you understand how that is done, you're good to go. You can just learn how to ask questions and ask people questions. And this is going to put you in the mood of conversation with people, with strangers. The engagement with active listening is essential. It's a catalyst to the acquisition or learning of language, depending on different kind of levels of the speakers, whether that's in the elementary, beginner's level, intermediate, or advanced. And when I say listening, I mean it, not watching. Now, I recommend that you people watch YouTube, watch channels, because it's a sort of engagement. But if we just pie chart that into, categories, the active listening, actively stimulating your ears, not your eyes, will leave a huge burden on your cognitive skills. It will give your brain a cognitive load. And that cognitive load will generate the capacity of the brain to overcome the kind of lack of comprehension of what's going on. So your brain is going to fire questions about what the speaker said, learning the tone of the speaker, and all of these components will ultimately help you understand the patterns of the speakers, their accents, their dialects, where they're coming from, and eventually will help you understand what the speaker says and what you have to say back to them. YouTube channels recommend you read, but I do not recommend you read comprehensive list of encyclopedias. I want you to read small books, small text, maybe a book that is no more than 100 pages. You can just complete it in one session, and it will give you very concise list of vocabulary. It will give you a lot of lessons about life or philosophy or technology or AI or whatever the book is about or whatever you're interested in or whatever your habits are. So my recommendation, read a book that is less than 100 pages. there are hundreds of books that are less than 100 pages. Because if the author can say things in less than 100 pages, it can tell you a lot about his experience in life concisely. For grammar, I do not want you to be a researcher or academician to be specialist in grammar. People think that they have to be specialist in grammar to be able to speak English, and that is not true. You can just learn present, past, and future, these three tenses. I have dedicated a video for 1 hour to talk about these tenses and aspects. It's actually included within the context of present perfect, past simple, and future, and present continuous. These 5 tenses are the most common and important tenses and aspects in English. Just go and watch it. You will learn a lot. And that's it for now. For now. Set a mini goal and focus on pronunciation first. There are manuals to help you with pronunciation. For example, American Accent Training. And there is another series called American Accent Training and Grammar, or Grammar and American Accent. It's a kind of book that was published recently, I think by Anki. And the book dedicates most of its part to teach you the basics of grammar that you need to be able to speak with a good accent. And sometimes accent doesn't mean good thing. It means bad thing. Because if we say this person speaks with an accent, it just means that his speech is a little bit incomprehensible. So set the mini goals, and these mini goals can be tied for the longer range goals. Do it step by step. For consistency, it's probably my favorite word in English dictionary, and I love it because I try as much as possible to stick to a plan of what I have to do. For example, the plan of introducing 100 stories to you. I have completed this goal this year. You can watch the series of 100 stories on my YouTube channel. Also, there's the importance of setting an achievable goal, tracking your progress. Once you are on a track of progress and an achievable goal, you can definitely get there, no matter how slow you move. Creating routine is a challenge thing. Creating routine is critical but pivotal issue for a lot of learners. They start with so much energy to burn to learn the language, but they just lose the steam after a few days. But setting a goal and tracking your progress, no matter how small your goal is, but the fact that you are setting a goal and measuring it and checking every time the progress that you make on this goal, because some people just create larger than life goals, but they end up not doing anything. Learn in context and elicit some feedback from your friends is one of the tips that I have and I should give you, because people who are listening to you are just looking at a different angle of your progress in language, and maybe they see things in you that you don't see in yourself. Maybe they just recommend things that you need to work on that you think you don't want to work on because you're professional in. And that is not the case most of the time, because let me tell you something. What you think you need and what you think you want are completely two different things. The last tip that I can think of is to cultivate a growth mindset, to be open-minded for criticism, and also to embrace the fact that we are constantly learning from others. Everything we know, we learned from someone else. So cultivating this kind of mindset will give you the best chance to challenge your skills, and what challenges you changes you, and cultivate a growth mindset, because ultimately this will lead you to become a very professional English speaker. We cannot be native speakers at all, but we can be professional speakers. And guess what? Professional speakers are sometimes better than native speakers when it comes to their expressions of emotions, or speaking about diplomatic issues, or engaging in conflict resolution. Look at the people who work in foreign agencies. Look at people who work in foreign affairs. They can express things about politics, about conflict, about extremism, about anything in a very professional but straightforward way. So you don't have to be a native speaker to become a language speaker, but you can be a very professional speaker. These are the pool of tips that I wanted to share with you for the advanced level. It can serve as a podcast for you to listen on your commute to work, but it can also help you understand and realize that there is no magic spell and there is no magic wand to help you learn English. There is no shortcut. There are no shortcuts to learning English, no matter what people trick you with. You have to go through the long road. You have to go through the struggle and the complications of frustration and being upset or being so frustrated and angry or upset that you're not getting to the kind of target that you have. But once you leave that plateau and you rise up to the professional level by consistency, you will realize how much language is important. Let me tell you a final quote by Federico Fellini about language learning. And he says, a different language is a different vision of life. You can realize how important language is to communicate with people, to facilitate your travel, to push you up in the ladder of promotions, etc., etc. So go learn a language and enjoy a different vision of life. Have a wonderful day.